Good morning, this is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for September 25th around 7 a.m. We have weakening Hurricane Maria moving north, and we have Hurricane Lee out in the middle of the open Atlantic. This morning's visible satellite, you can see both of our systems spinning. We have Lee out in the open Atlantic and Maria closer to home. Maria is evenly spaced between Bermuda out here and Florida. We have a low-level exposed circulation on the northwest quadrant of the hurricane, and the system is moving slowly north into cooler sea surface temperatures left in the wake of Hurricane Jose. So the system will probably slowly weaken over the next few days as it passes east of the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And then we have Lee out here, tiny little system. In fact, somebody yesterday posted a picture of like 8 Lees inside of one Maria on a satellite picture, but it's a little bigger than that. Maybe 3 of these could fit inside of Hurricane Maria. But this system started out here off the Cabo Verde Islands and became a tropical storm a long time ago. It seems like it was probably like 10 days ago. I've lost track of the time. But then the system ran into wind shear, weakened. The NHC stopped writing advisories on it. The system drifted off to the north, and now it's found itself in a favorable environment on the backside of this high-pressure ridge out here. And the system is approaching winds of 100 miles an hour, really small 9-mile wide eye in here, and the system is going to slowly weaken over the next few days and drift off to the south. And, these tiny little systems can strengthen rapidly and they can weaken rapidly, so this is forecast to just dissipate out here in the open Atlantic. But all eyes are on Hurricane Maria off the southeast right now. And while I have this image up, you'll notice there's nothing else behind either of these two systems. We have basically nothing out here between the coast of Africa and the Lesser Antilles, thankfully. They need to get a rest. The Lesser Antilles have been pounded by both Maria and Irma, so they're in major recovery effort in these islands. They don't need anything else. Some of the long-range models indicate that down here in the Caribbean Sea, we're going to see some development. We have low. And looking at this morning's close-up visible satellite shot from NOAA, you can clearly see that the center of this system is exposed right here. There's the tiny little eye on Hurricane Maria. Now, keep in mind, back in here, when it was down in here, the thing had about a 20 nautical mile wide eye, nice clear eye with banding all the way around it. It was a very healthy system. And now you look at it, there's a few strong bands on the east side. There's a big gap in here of dry air working its way into the system. And not only that, but we have warm, cooler sea surface temperatures. Let's put the sea surface temperature contours up here on the map, and you can see we're at 28 degrees Celsius where the system is right now. It's 82 degrees. And then you get up here off the coast of maybe its closest approach to the Outer Banks. Now we're talking 26 degrees Celsius. That's upper 70s temperatures. So it's definitely moving into cooler sea surface temperatures, and it's not going to have that flourishing environment to strengthen the further north this system moves. And looking at the HurTrack Pro, courtesy of PC Weather Products, using the NHC forecast from 5 a.m. this morning, here is our forecast positions going into the future. And yesterday when I was running this, I did not do an update video yesterday, but this was coming within 110 miles of Cape Hatteras. And notice the miles away from Hatteras this morning has increased. So now we're talking about 128 nautical miles at the closest approach. That's about a 20-mile swing. So it indicates to me that the forecast is adjusting just slightly to the right, and then we go ahead and into the future, 133 miles, 140 miles, and then it begins to pull away from Hatteras. But inside that yellow circle would be gust 2 tropical storm force strength, affecting the entire Outer Banks. But the inside the aqua circle, those are sustained tropical storm force winds. So probably not going to be the sustained tropical storm force event for the Outer Banks like they were thinking maybe a couple of days ago, where this the aqua circle would have made its way on shore if it tracked closer. But it looks like that's not going to happen. And then we go into the future, and then it quickly slings off to the east and out into the open Atlantic. So let's go ahead and run our wind potential for the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And here's our wind swath bands. You can see that we have potential for a gust of 48 to 58 miles an hour. Inside the darker colors, we would have winds 64 to 77, and in the dark blue areas, 73 to 89 mile an hour gusts. But these darker areas are not going to be impacting the Outer Banks. So basically 40 to probably 60 mile an hour gust occasionally, maybe on the Outer Banks. But the bigger story here is going to be the wave action. We have a continuing fetch out of the east-northeast and east coming into these areas, and this is happening. It's already happening now, and it's going to happen for a couple more days. So there's just going to be huge beach erosion, tidal flooding, and big problems on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So it's advised nobody goes in the water for obvious reasons, but the surfers are going to do it anyway. But just generally be careful on these coastal areas for dangerous conditions along the coast. And here is our wave viewer from NOAA, and we'll go ahead and animate this and put this in motion, and you can see the hurricane approaches. Here we go, going out to the 26th, and the 27th here is the closest point of approach and the largest waves impacting this area. And you can see that down using the scale down at the bottom, we probably have anywhere between 6 and 8 foot seas right near the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and that would be on the 27th, which is 57 hours from now, would be the largest wave. So again, as I stated earlier, this is going to be a prolonged event, probably a 2 to 3 day period of really high waves. But then the good news is once this system begins to pull away, the wave action obviously will settle down a little bit. And now we're back to 2 to 3 foot seas, and then, and actually, interestingly, when this system, let's back it up here, when this system begins to pull away, the winds are probably going to come offshore a little bit, and there could be some little bit of sound flooding in the Outer Bank area. We'll have to watch for that, but it looks like right now, the way this wave action is shown, it's all going to be mainly onshore from the ocean, and the system will pull away, and conditions will greatly improve, going well into later in the week and into the weekend. So looking at some of the current buoy conditions out here, just north of where the circulation is, we have winds out of the northeast at 33, gusting to 38 knots. So not real strong on the north quad of this system right now. I think they're being a little bit generous with the 80 miles an hour. And then you look at some of the observations off the Outer Banks up here. We have winds northeast at 21, gusting to 27. And a little further out, we have winds out of the northeast at 21, gusting to 25. And here's a ship out here, just east of the Outer Banks, northeast winds around 30 knots. And over here we have another buoy, winds 19, gusting to 25. So again, no tropical storm force winds affecting the Outer Banks at this time, but strong onshore flow, and that's only going to increase over the next 24 to 48 hours as the system approaches and passes off to the east. But right now, conditions are, right around 30 miles an hour, and that'll be increasing slowly. And looking at our zoomed-in sea surface temperature map on the front page of Hurricane City, you just choose sea surface temps from the options below the tracking map. And you can see a zoomed-in version of our overlay of the forecast from the National Hurricane Center from the 5 a.m. advisory. And the temperatures of 80 degrees or less, which are unfavorable, well, actually less than 80 degrees are unfavorable. And some of these temperatures, especially using the scale up in here, you can see that the temperatures are around 72 degrees in this line. Anything north of this line is basically unfavorable, 70-degree temperatures, 75 degrees, 76. But then down here, we have winds closer to 80-degree Fahrenheit temperatures, which are warm enough to support a hurricane. But based on the forecast track from the National Hurricane Center, we're talking tropical storm at this position and then quickly slinging off to the northeast. So while I let you absorb the time scale of the closest approach to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, a little programming note, I've been doing a lot of video editing on the past hurricanes. Harvey has been uploaded to the video archive page. Use the drop-down menus at Hurricane City to find that. There's a video of Harvey, the timeline, with unbelievable video as that happened in Texas. And I am currently working on Hurricane Irma. The northeastern Leeward Islands and the Virgin Islands were hit by 185-mile-an-hour winds. Bill Phillips and Don Midget were streaming live during that period and recording ham radio from the affected areas. Some really interesting stuff came out of there from the Virgin Islands, so I'm editing that at this time, and that'll be uploaded in the next several days. And then we'll work on the Florida angle of Hurricane Irma and that whole story. And then we'll begin to work on Hurricane Maria, whatever I can piece together from that one. So there's a lot of work yet to do behind the scenes. That's why I'm not as active on Twitter and in social networks, etc., because I'm doing a lot of editing in the background. Plus, I've been injured. I cracked my ankle the other day, so I've got some other medical issues going on at the time. So anyway, that's the best information I'm providing at this time on Hurricane Maria. We're not featuring Cape Hatteras, North Carolina at this time on Hurricane City for two reasons. First of all, it's not going to directly impact Cape Hatteras. Yes, they're going to get wave action, some tropical storm force wind gusts, but the core of the hurricane is going to pass offshore, and we only feature cities where the core is going to directly impact them. Plus, we have the major aftermath tragic story going on down in Puerto Rico, I think, which is much more important right now. San Juan is the current feature at Hurricane City. You can get all the news and information and recovery efforts from the affected areas down in Puerto Rico from Hurricane Maria. And we'll leave San Juan as the current feature until we have the next threat of something that will directly impact land. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching. I'm Jim Williams.